Chapter 1. A Body. In January, they found the girl's body. They found it in Pinecrest. Pinecrest is a small town about 90 miles from Denver in the Rocky Mountains. In the past, it was famous for silver and gold, but now it's a place where people go on vacation. They ski there in the winter and walk in the mountains in the summer. Movie stars have homes there. It's beautiful, and it's quiet when the snow falls. And the snow falls a lot in the winter. Pinecrest isn't usually the kind of place you find a dead body. Denver's the place for that, not Pinecrest. Oh, of course, sometimes there are skiing accidents, like in all ski resorts. I remember that a young man died about 3 years ago. He was skiing too fast and he went into a tree. It's sad, but it happens. But murder? Killing someone? Well, that's different. So that January morning, my boss, Leo Cohn, chief of the Denver police, called me into his office. "Girl's body in Pinecrest, Flick," said Leo. Leo was thin and worked too much. He never sat down. Now, he was standing near his desk. "They found her yesterday." "Oh?" I said. "It looks like someone killed her," he said. I didn't say anything. "Murder," he said, as if I didn't understand. I waited. He didn't look at me. Then he said, "I want you to go to Pinecrest." "Ha!" I said. "So that's what you want." "But Leo, why me? It's too soon. It was just 2 months ago. I can't." "Flick, you're the best," he said, "and you need to get out of Denver. It's the best thing." "Listen, Leo," I started, but I stopped. Leo looked me in the eyes. "Come on, Flick. Bill Gershon, the chief of police there, is an old friend of mine. He's not happy. If it's murder, it's bad for business. No one wants to ski when there's a killer about." Well, yeah, I thought, as I looked out of Leo's window at the city. A dead body was bad for business. I knew Pinecrest. I used to go skiing there on the weekends. The town made its money from the thousands of visitors who went there every year. The restaurants, cafes, hotels, ski school, all made money from the people who went to beautiful Pinecrest for their vacation. "And the girl?" I asked. "Was she a visitor?" Leo smiled. He could see that I was interested. "Yes," he said. "She was there on a skiing vacation with some friends from college. Someone found her in the swimming pool at the hotel where she was staying." "She died in the swimming pool?" I asked. "I mean, looks like somebody drowned her," Leo said. I looked at him. "She was 23 years old," Leo said softly. "And?" I asked. "You'll get what you need from Gershon," said Leo. I got up to leave. "Oh, and Flick?" said Leo. I turned at the door. "I want you to get this one, and I want you to get it fast," he said. "First, because it'll make the Denver Police Department look good, and we need that. And second, because you think it's good for me to get out of the office and back to work," I said. Leo didn't say anything, but it was true. He was helping me in his way. "Okay, Leo," I said, "but remember, it was just November. Just 2 months ago that Scott..." Yeah, I know. "But Flick, Scott's dead," said Leo. His voice was kind, but strong. and you've got to live." He turned away from me and looked out of the window. Leo was finished. I walked to my office to get the things I needed for a few days out of town. My notebook, cell phone, and car keys. I thought about November. Thought about Scott. Detective Scott King of the Denver Police. Then I took my gun and put it under my jacket. I went downstairs to the parking lot. Scott and I worked together for 4 years. We were the best the Denver Police Department had. We loved catching killers, robbers, all of Denver's criminals. But we were more than that. We were friends, too. Scott was my best friend. Then one stupid, cold day in November, Eddie Lang killed Scott. And I saw my best friend die. Yeah, I thought, Scott's dead, and I've got to live. Most days it was difficult. I shook my head, and Scott's face went away. I took my keys out of the pocket of my jacket and looked at the most beautiful car in the world, my red 1957 Chevrolet. My Chevy. I smiled. That car always made me smile. Some days it felt like it was the only good thing in my life. I drove home fast to my apartment on Alameda, went in and packed a bag. I changed into my blue suit and looked at myself in the mirror in the bathroom. I looked okay. I looked like I came from the big city. I felt my gun inside my jacket. I was ready to find a killer without Scott. 15 minutes later, I was driving on I-70 to Pinecrest, Colorado. I was trying to forget about Scott, and I was trying to forget about Eddie Lang. Chapter 2. Pinecrest. Scott King. Yeah, it was hard to forget. As I drove up into the Rocky Mountains, pictures came into my head. The first time we worked together, his smile, the things he said. "Stop it, Flick," I said to myself. I turned on the car radio. It was an old country song. Then the news came on. "Good morning, listeners," said the voice. "It's 10 o'clock, and here's the news. Police found a young woman's body in a swimming pool at the Mountain Hotel in Pinecrest yesterday. The 23-year-old was a visitor from Texas in the town on a skiing vacation. Police believe it was murder." I turned the radio off. Scott came back to me. I thought about the first time we worked together. "Flick," said Scott. "That's a funny name." We were in a police car in downtown Denver. "Well, my real name's Felicity," I said. "My dad liked it. There was an English movie star called Felicity. At school, everyone thought it was very funny. So I became Flick." "Flick Lane," he said. "Yeah, good, don't you think?" I said. "Yeah, Scott and Flick," he laughed. "Denver's crime fighters." "Hey, don't you mean Flick and Scott?" I laughed. Scott and Flick. Flick and Scott. Now I looked at the road. I tried to think about the drive. The road was at 7,000 feet already. But it was a beautiful day in the Rockies. Really beautiful. The sky was clear blue, and you could see for miles. But I couldn't stop thinking about Scott. I thought about the day he died in November, just 2 months ago. The day we went looking for Eddie Lang, one of Denver's worst criminals. He killed people for money. But we were onto him. We knew where he was. We were in an old, dark house. We knew that Eddie Lang and his men were there. "Don't worry, Scott. I'm behind you," I said quietly. I could see Scott a few feet in front of me. It was dark, but I could just see him. Suddenly, I heard a loud noise, a gun. Then Scott was down on the dirty floor. His blood was everywhere. I ran outside quickly and called the police station. A few minutes later, more police officers arrived. But Scott was dead. Scott was dead, and Eddie Lang and his men were gone. They were gone, but I thought about Scott every day. I went on driving. An hour later, I drove into the parking lot of Pinecrest Police Station. Something told me that Bill Gershon, chief of Pinecrest Police, wasn't happy to see me. "So," he said, as I walked into his office, "Leo sent me a woman." "Yeah, aren't you lucky?" I said, smiling. Gershon didn't smile. I sat down. There were still men in the police who thought that women police officers and murder didn't go together. It looked like Gershon was one of those men. "We don't often have murders in Pinecrest," he said. I looked at Gershon. He was a round person, round body, round face, round glasses. About 50, 55 maybe, with almost no hair. Then I looked around at his office. Yeah, I thought, parking tickets, not murder. "Listen," I said, "why don't we make this easy? Just tell me what I need to know." The chief of police said nothing for a moment or two, and then went on. Janine Anderson was her name, a student from Austin, Texas. She wanted to write for a newspaper, to be a journalist. This is about her. He pushed some papers towards me. I looked at the papers. There wasn't much. Her name, her parents' names. A student of journalism at the University of Texas, Austin. Cause of death, drowning. Her parents were in Europe on vacation. Gershon shook his head sadly and said, "They're coming back today. Coffee?" It wasn't much, but it was a start. "Who found her?" I asked, drinking the hot, black coffee. "Her friend, Teresa Douglas," said Gershon. "They were staying at the Mountain Hotel." The Mountain Hotel was in Pinecrest. A lot of skiers stayed there. "They skied all day," Gershon went on. "Janine went to the swimming pool at about 9 o'clock. The pool is on the top floor of the hotel. She had to go upstairs and go outside. At 11 o'clock, the Douglas girl went up to look for Janine. She found her in the swimming pool." "Dead?" I asked. "Yes," said Gershon. "Teresa Douglas tried mouth to mouth. Then we had a 911 call at about 11:15. We were there 5 minutes later. Janine was dead." "Did Janine have other friends here?" I asked. "Yes. Apart from the Douglas girl, there's a guy, Jeff Mason, said the chief of police. They're students in Austin. Anything on the body? I asked. I wanted to know if there was a fight before Janine died. On the back of her neck, said Gershon. It looks like maybe somebody just put her head under the water and drowned her. Well, we don't know that yet, I said. This is terrible, said Gershon. Governor Johnson is visiting Pinecrest soon. A murder is the last thing we need. Clark Johnson was the governor of Colorado, and everyone said he was the next president of the United States. He lived near Pinecrest. I looked at Gershon. He wasn't thinking about the dead girl. He was thinking about the bad news, I thought. I finished my coffee and stood up. Okay, I'm going, I said. Here's my cell phone number. I wrote down my number and gave it to Gershon. I'm staying at the Pine Lodge Hotel. Gershon came to the door with me. He still didn't smile. Listen, I said. Maybe you don't like it, but we have to work together. If this is murder, we have to find this killer before he or she kills again. I looked at Gershon and walked away. Great, I thought. Just what I need. A chief of police who doesn't want to work with me. I went back to my car, took out my winter coat, and put it on. It was cold here, much colder than Denver. We were at 9,000 feet, but it was a beautiful, clear day, and there was a smell of wood smoke in the air. I walked down the road to the mountain hotel. I looked at the town. It was a pretty place. Behind the small houses were the big houses of the famous people who lived in Pinecrest. Lots of movie stars and famous sports people had homes there. Sometimes you saw them on the ski runs, in the stores, or in the more expensive restaurants in the town. I looked up to the snow-covered mountains. I could see ski runs everywhere, but there were only a few people moving down the mountain. It was a beautiful day for skiing, cold and clear, but no one wanted to ski. They thought that there was a killer free in the town.